Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Stallings. You know me here on YouTube as MarauderEX, and this is My 2 Cents, where I give you my 2 cents, or rather my opinion, on an issue that is currently going on in the gaming industry either today, it could be an issue that happened yesterday, or it could be potentially an issue that might crop up tomorrow. Something going on in the realm of gaming. And I want to reiterate, as my 2 cents, this is my opinion, my personal opinion, based off of my personal experiences and what may be a very limited amount of experience with a particular topic. That said, I'm not 100% right, but I will reiterate that intelligent, rational, and polite discourse is the best way to try to get someone to change the opinion. If new information is brought to light, it may reshape my opinion, depending on what information, how legitimate it is, and how it's presented. You can be right all day long, but if you come across being an ass about it, it really does not lead any credence to your argument. So with that said, I really want any conversation with us to be rational, thought out, and polite. The no, you're wrong type stuff on the internet will not really be tolerated in a lot of the discourse. If you have a differing opinion, that's fine. Just be polite about it. That's all there really needs to be said about that. Now, this episode, I'm going to cover a topic that gets brought up to me fairly often. Are video games art? And the short answer for me is yes. Yes, indeed it is. Now, I could go in depth on that. The long answer is yes, I believe video games are considered an art form. Not every game is considered art, but any current piece of art in a specific field can also be judged by the same criteria. People sit here and say, oh, well, movies are art, because you have things like Citizen Kane. Well, you also have things like Dude, Where's My Car? Is Dude, Where's My Car art? No, it's just entertaining. Are games like Call of Duty art? No, it's just entertaining. The same can be said for television, music, and literature, you know, existing styles of art. And art is a very subjective thing. It doesn't mean the same to everyone. One person can look at a picture of the Mona Lisa and think that that is the most amazing painting ever made, and some people look at it and think it's just they could do better, or it just doesn't appeal to them. Art is a very, very subjective thing, but I feel that art applies to games because you're combining already existing forms of art. You're taking music, you're taking graphics, and you're putting storytelling into effect. So you're taking all things of movies, TV, literature, and you're combining them with other elements. And the one unique thing is you are making it interactive. That interactivity adds a layer to this art form that doesn't apply to anything else. And that interactivity gives you a greater sense of connection in some ways. You can empathize with the characters a little bit more because you kind of are the characters. Now again, I sit here and say art. Games qualify as art. Again, not all games, but I certainly feel that Okami is an artistic masterpiece. I feel Chrono Trigger is artistic. And even games that I don't particularly like have amazing artistic qualities to them. Chrono Cross, while I was not a fan of the game itself, there's no denying that the soundtrack to that game made the game so much more in depth. The soundtrack is amazing. The art style is amazing. And these are things that movies are graded on and win awards for. You have the Academy Awards, you get Emmys for this stuff. Games are not treated with the same level of respect because people sit here and say games, oh, you see the original Super Mario Brothers, you see Pong. You don't see what games really can become. And I've been exposed to a lot of different facets of it in my area. A personal anecdote that you may enjoy. I went to a video game symphony. It was North Carolina Orchestra doing video game music for their symphony. And when we were there, there was a couple in front of us, a slightly older couple, that had season tickets for the symphony. And they were expecting this performance to be Russian music, Russian classical. And when we said, no, this is video games, and they looked at us like we had grown two heads. They had no idea how video games could be artistically inclined, especially musically. And we told them that video game music has since expanded beyond chiptunes. Most modern soundtracks use orchestrated music, full orchestrated music. So there's really not much of a stretch. And they were getting ready to pack up, and we had convinced them, just stick around for the first song. We know what the first song is going to be. Just let us know after that song what you think about it. And they gave us the benefit of the doubt. And they sat, and it was amazing. It was symphonic, a medley of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. And they just looked at it, and they turned to us and said, we had no idea. And that's part of the problem. People don't have an idea. That nice couple, they ended up staying for the full concert, and we talked to them for a fair bit afterwards. They wanted to know more. And that blew me away. That was what I would want to see. More people just looking at this and realizing that it's not what you're expecting. People look at games and they have an expectation. And gaming for a very long time has had a very negative connotation. And so a lot of people have been very hesitant to give the status of art to this medium, because they just don't feel the people who represent it would represent other forms of art. And that's very true. The gaming community is not the most welcoming, it is not the most pleasant, and it's not the most forward-thinking. So a lot of people do base their judgments on that, but they're saying don't judge a book by its cover. Look at the medium for itself. I know a lot of people don't agree that games can be art because they sit here and see the varying outliers. You have a ton of games that are not art. They are just meant for entertainment. But you also have a ton of movies, and the bulk of television is not art. But there are some things that do qualify. Now, is it on the same level as professional theater? No, there's a great deal of difference between it, mostly because professional theater is live. You make mistakes. You have to be able to adapt, or just not make the mistake at all. You have to be that level of dedicated to make sure you are not making a mistake. And so a lot of people look down on other art forms, and you just have this hierarchy, where if games are considered, they're typically considered the lowest rung. But I honestly feel that that's the case because how new gaming is. People didn't used to consider movies art. It's only been recently, within the past few generations, that movies have become considered an art form, and they are still working toward that. You have movies that just blow you away on one or more levels, either for the quality of the acting, the quality of the screenplay, or the quality of the effects. Something that just makes you sit and go, this is unique and special. And it connects to you on an artistic level. Again, art being subjective. But people aren't willing to give that chance to games. You have the movies that become art, like Citizen Kane. But again, you have Dude, Where's My Car? Or American Pie. Or any Michael Bay action fest. Not to say these aren't good movies. I'm a fan of, most of the Michael Bay action fests. I mean, who doesn't like watching explosions for 2 hours? But I will also sit here and admit, It's a Wonderful Life. I consider that art. That's amazing. Just the same way that I sit here and look at games. Shadow of the Colossus. That's something that, to this day, will still just leave me in awe every time I see it. There's opening cutscenes to games that I will just sit there and watch for hours. Final Fantasy IX. Just how it's presented. It leaves the same feeling in me as, say, watching the opening cinematics for The Lord of the Rings. Or reading the first couple of chapters of The Lord and the Rings. It all connects in some way. Now, for those of you who don't see games as art, my question is why? What about games do you not see as art? I will admit that gaming is not as mature a medium as the others. It still has several years to go before it reaches the pinnacle of what it could start becoming as art. I mean, it took movies a long time to become art. You had a long time of, silent films that were borderline slapstick before you started getting to things like Gone with the Wind. So, why do you not see as art? Is it just because it is games, because you have an interactive element? Is interactive art something that takes away from the artistic process? Or is it that you just don't know enough about games or see games as the same way you see movies? That you're not seeing something that connects them? I mean, I would imagine there are a lot of people who do not see games as art because they just don't think about it. They don't see it the same way. Roger Ebert often said that he did not consider games art. He was a movie critic. And I find it ironic that he would sit here and say this is not art when it was not too long ago that movies were not considered art. And he's sitting here campaigning and championing the concept that movies are art. Not all movies, but they do have some that qualify as art. He later went back and said, I've never really played a game, so I don't really have really much to say about it. And I do apologize for making a judgment based off of something I've never really experienced. And I thought that in itself was the moment where it might be taken seriously. Someone who just made a snap judgment decides, maybe not. Maybe I should give it a chance. To my knowledge, he never did get a chance to give gaming a chance. He was very sick for the later half of his life and passed away, and I find that unfortunate because I really think that if he had had the opportunity to sit here and play a game that a lot of us consider art, I've mentioned several, that he would sit there and think, maybe there is something to this. Give it a couple of years, and it might just become... And that's what I want to see. I consider some games now art, but I will admit there are some hurdles the medium and the industry still need to get over before we can consider this truly art. And I hope that it gets to that point. And I hope that more people like Mr. Ebert possibly give it the chance. The people that I met at the concert give it the chance to realize that if you don't look at it as the whole, as art, that maybe there is a piece of it that you could consider art that might spread out into the collective work of the whole. Because without the soundtrack, Chrono Cross would not be Chrono Cross, nor would Bioshock be Bioshock. But same with the art style. It's the pieces that make the whole, and the pieces are already art. You have art style, you have sound. These are two things that are already considered art that make up a huge portion of what a video game is. And so if those things are considered art, and those things are the backbone of what gaming is, I just fail to see how it can't be considered art in itself. And I know people will disagree with me, but I hope those who do agree make your voice heard. And for those of you who don't disagree, again, I'm curious as to why. Why do you not see games as art? I don't understand. That is something that I really cannot wrap my head around. And again, I'm not saying all games. I do not count Super Meat Boy as art. Just the same way that I, do not count basically any Rob Schneider movie art. I'm sorry, but don't. Deuce Bigalow, it's entertaining, but not art. At least not to me. But that's the beauty of something subjective. And that's the thing that I'm really, really concerned about with this piece, is that art is subjective. No two people sit here and look at the same piece of art, listen to the same music, watch the same movie, read the same book, and feel the exact same way about it. There's always going to be slight differences because of how people absorb and interpret that art. And opening this door, I know it's just opening Pandora's box for all sorts of comments, but just know it's subjective. And while this is my opinion, I find it to be art. If you don't sit here and yell, I like the color red, you like the color blue, so therefore I'm wrong because you like blue. They're both colors. They may not be your favorite color, but they're both colors. That's viewpoints. That is the definition of subjective. So that is my 2 cents on video games being art. So I will see you guys in another episode where I take on another topic and wonder what my 2 cents are on that topic. Till then, later everyone.